Hi, this is Evangelist Greer of A.R.K World Outreach Ministries in Chicago, USA. And I want to share a word with you that I believe is going to be a blessing to you if you take it in, if you take heed and let God speak to your heart. And it's on the subject of keeping your spiritual eyes open so that you don't miss what I call the spiritual breadcrumbs, the spiritual stepping stones, small stepping stone victories that God sends your way. Because these are the indicators that God will lead you and take you down a path so that it propels you and it catapults you to your ultimate destiny in Him. I think the first thing that a lot of people need to realize is that God's plans for you are bigger, they're larger, they're greater, they're grander, they're exponentially more than your plans for you. And the reason for that is that you and I don't really have the capacity to understand all that God has for us. And the scripture brings it out in the book of Ephesians, the 3rd chapter and the 20th verse, where the scripture says, and Paul tells us, that God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we ask or even think. So we can't even imagine everything that God has for us. But what He does is He gives us small victories to build our faith. Let me read a scripture to you that I think will illustrate this beautifully. And it's in the book of Deuteronomy, the 3rd chapter, and I want to start reading from the 21st verse. This is Moses giving a narrative to the children of Israel before they went into Canaan, sort of last minute instructions, if you will. And he was telling them about his tutorial with Joshua. So what he said to the children of Israel here, starting again in the 21st verse, "And I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, Thine eyes have seen all that the Lord your God has done unto these two kings. So shall the Lord your God do unto all the kingdoms whither thou passest." So the two kings that Moses referred to were Sihon and Og, who were kings of the Amorites. Now, there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind. Number one, Sihon and Og were giants. And the other thing that you need to keep in mind, or you should keep in mind, is that they were on the east side of Jordan. They weren't even in Canaan. They weren't even in the place that God had promised the children of Israel. They were in the path toward the place that God had promised them. But God allowed Joshua to defeat and have victory over these two kings on the east side of Jordan. I call them Eastside Kings, if you will, because they had some cousins on the west side of Jordan, West Side Kings, that were bigger, that were stronger, there were more of them, and they lived in fortified cities, and they were waiting for them because they had heard about that they were coming and what God had done for them when they came out of the land of Egypt. So God allowed Joshua a couple of stepping stone breadcrumb victories on his way, leading him to his ultimate destiny. So that Joshua, when he got across Jordan, he was able to look back and take heart because of what God has done for him in the past. That's all that God is saying. You know all the victories that God has done for you. The time you prayed for your family, the time you prayed for your finances, the time you prayed for your health, the time you were going to court. These didn't seem like spectacular victories to you. And sometimes you develop possibly spiritual amnesia because they didn't come with a lot of fanfare. But these are faith builders because your ultimate destiny is ahead of you. So keep your eyes open. Be thankful for every victory that God has given you. Savor those victories and lean on them because you're going to need to refer to them in the future when God catapults you to your ultimate destiny. So God bless you. Thank you for allowing me to share that word with you. And remember, one word from the Lord can transform your life.